If you're a teenager that's new to lifting, this is the video for you, since I'll be providing 5 amazing tips that really make a difference. And this also applies to beginners in general, just so you know. So to get straight into the topic, my number one advice is to really focus on the compound movements. This should be your bread and butter, and you need to establish a base level of strength. Oftentimes, I see novices or young lifters in general doing a bunch of exercise that they simply don't need, and they believe that they have weaknesses, when in reality, their entire body is weak. So if you have 12-inch arms and you're like, Alex, my arms are lagging, it's like, no, it's not just the arms. Everything, including the chest, the back, the legs, the whole 9 yards. So the compound movements will give you that base level of strength and size. It's probably the most important thing you can focus on, and it's exactly why there are many people who've been lifting for many years and they're still novices. They never focus on the basics. The basics work and they're here to stay. And it's exactly what beginners need to be focusing on. Refrain from training like an advanced lifter, and don't be doing a bunch of different variations that are simply not required at this stage of the game. Get brutally strong at the squat, bench press, deadlift, overhead press, barbell row, pull-up, and even push-up. You make that your focus. You try to specialize in those lifts, if you will. Watch your physique blow up right before your very eyes, even at a young age. Because let's get something straight. I don't care how many chest flies you do. If you're only benching 95 pounds for 3 to 5 reps, you're not going to have watermelon pecs. And your arms aren't going to be that big either. I don't care if you're doing a bunch of push downs. If your bench press is super weak, if your overhead press is super weak, if you don't have basic strength standards, you'll be small looking, man, especially now at your age. So get strong at the basics, okay? And this will take you so far, you won't even believe it. The faster you get into these effective time-tested exercises, the better it's going to be for you in the long run. And this will bring me on to my second point, which also ties into this. Always use good form. This is 100% mandatory. If you don't use good form, you'll eventually get injured. And at a young age, this is the worst possible thing that could happen. It doesn't make sense that there are novices and very young men who have bad lower backs already. It doesn't add up. Bad knees, bad shoulders, bad elbows. That doesn't make sense. I mean, you're not an old man. Your testosterone is pretty normal. It's actually going to get a little bit higher as you age a little bit. But you shouldn't be getting injuries left and right. The reason why this is occurring in a lot of teenagers is because they ego lift and they're not using proper technique, which you have to do on the essential compounds. When you bench press, you can't be flaring out your elbows to the extreme maximum. You can't just be benching with a flat back, not retracting your scapula. The squats, you got to brace correctly. You got to shove the knees out typically, tight lower back. Deadlift, you can't be rounding like a cat, man. So you have to use good form. And I would strongly recommend that you watch as many tutorials as possible. And if your form breaks down at the beginning, like drop the weight, drop the ego. It's not worth it if you get injured at a young age, because now you're screwed. And on top of that, let's say you don't get hurt and you still make gains. Guess what? You have now ingrained a false movement pattern, which will take a very long time to correct. That's a recipe for disaster, dude. So you're increasing your chance of injury. You're getting false movement patterns in. And in the long run, this is absolutely not the way to go. In fact, I would say if you're not going to use good form on the standard compounds, like maybe you're better off not doing anything. Real talk. Like you have to do this properly from day one. Okay, so watch a bunch of tutorials, and if you really have to, maybe hire a strength coach. Okay, you can get a little part-time job if you don't have one already. It's not going to be that expensive to get some form consultations. Get it done, because I can guarantee you that when you have an injury, that's going to cost you more in the long run. Okay, and it's not worth it. So proper form is a must when doing these effective compound movements. My third tip is to not be afraid of weight gain. Unless you're morbidly obese, there's no reason why you shouldn't be eating more food. Matter of fact, your body is in a growing stage right now. You're still developing. Your structure is still evolving. You're probably going to grow in height. Your voice is going to get deeper. Your muscles are going to grow without even you having to lift. Just everything is going to change for the better. So it's ideal during this time frame that you're eating a bit more food. You can handle it. You need more calories to grow. Don't be trying to be Mr. Shredded all the time. That's a big mistake. Teenagers are like, hey, I want to be 8% body fat. I want to be 10% body fat. What for? Why are you trying to be that lean at such a young age? You have all the time in the world to do that. Right now, you need to be focusing on getting stronger, getting bigger, getting more bulked up, if you will. Not becoming fat, okay? Not dirty bulking, but a lean bulk, taking your sweet time, gradually going back up. And you will be able to handle it. And your body might actually recomp in the process as you gain more muscle and as puberty develops, you know what I'm saying? So don't be afraid to gain some weight. Don't be afraid of losing your precious six-pack abs temporarily. You can get them right back, okay? And in my opinion, guys that are trying to cut at a really young age, it's not a good idea. And it just instills body dysmorphia. And it sets you down a road of misery, if you will, and never really being satisfied with your body. You're going to look at yourself in the mirror and be like, hey, I'm not lean enough. Okay, and this is especially true if you're watching a lot of fitness YouTubers who are constantly shredded, especially the ones on drugs. So we don't want to get that. We don't want body dysmorphia right now. Hell no. That's not what we want whatsoever. Instead, forget about being ultra lean. Don't be afraid of some fat gain. Eat some food. Get that little surplus in, and watch your gains blow up right before your very eyes, all right? My fourth tip is to follow basic linear progression systems. Keep it very basic. If you don't have to make your training complicated, there's no reason to, okay? Like I said at the beginning of this video, do not train like an advanced lifter. Don't copy what I'm doing. And if you are going to incorporate concurrent periodization, which is totally doable, you have to keep the exercise selection very basic, as well as sets and reps. But I'm going to tell you not to start with that. If you're brand new to lifting, you're a complete novice, and you're a teenager, again, focus on those essential compounds that I talked about at the beginning of this video and induce linear progression. And I personally recommend a full body routine. Monday, Wednesday, Friday. It always allows for perfect recovery. You're going to get 3 times a week muscle protein synthesis. You'll be increasing your weights pretty much every single workout. It's anti-ego lifting. It's simple. It's effective. You can't go wrong with this. So I recommend a full body 3 times a week. And a really good program you could run is my free novice system. So you can find that in the description box. So keep it basic. And as I'm going to talk about later, don't be program hopping either. Another really good tip I have, by the way, is to actually start with calisthenics first, since this tends to give you a really good base. Now, if you're already an athlete of some type, then maybe you can skip this step. But based off my experience and what I've seen in a lot of people who start with calisthenics, it just gives you a great base. And when you start lifting, you're already decently strong. Not elite, obviously, but you're more ahead of the standard novice. And calisthenics is a very safe thing to do, and you won't have to invest in a gym membership or anything, and it can be done in the comfort of your own home, just doing the standard push-ups and pull-ups and basic ab movements. Like, you can get a really nice physique doing that. When I did it, I was 143 pounds, really lean. I looked pretty good. I would say I looked better than most adults. I wasn't big, but, I looked pretty good. And when I got into the weight training, my body just blew up quite quickly. And I think that's because I had the increased work capacity from the calisthenics, and I already had a good level of general strength. So I'd say for a lot of people, this can make a big difference. And it's never a bad idea to begin with calisthenics if you're a teenager. So if you're scared of, say, the form, you know that you're not going to get it down, or you just want to start off a little bit differently than the conventional route, which is going straight into weights, well, why don't you do calisthenics for a few months and see how far you could take your training that way with the body weight stuff. Milk your push-ups, get really good at that, army style, Try focusing on the essential bodyweight moves. Once you got some good performance, then switch over to weights. I think it's a good way to start, personally. And if I can go back in time, that's exactly what I would do. All over again, I would have started with the calisthenics, and then I would have included weights. And then my final tip for this video is to please stay consistent and very patient. Understand that this is a long-term game, especially at your age. You're not going to turn to Superman after a year of training, okay? You're going to peak a bit later. Although you can get an amazing physique, and there are some teenagers that are even bigger and stronger than me, most will not hit that stage unless you have amazing genetics, okay? So accept that this is going to be a long grind, and you got to be committed to the process, which isn't a bad thing, man. These are the same principles that will carry you in other aspects of life, okay? Which will make you successful in your school, your work life, your relationships, all that stuff. So enjoy the journey and don't worry about comparing yourself to other men all the time, okay? I really want you to be the best version of you and to focus on your own individual progression, okay? So if your gains are slower than one of your peers, it doesn't really matter so much. Just do you and refrain from the ego stuff, okay? So don't compare yourself to other guys and enjoy that grind. And it's going to be slower if you're really, really young, Like if you're 14, 15, bro, yeah, you're probably not going to be like super jacked, initially, but you're going to get bigger over time, man. Like I would say after about 16, 17, the gains really pick up. Okay, then it's just smooth sailing from there. And I'm going to say that most of you can probably look better than the average adult lifter, that is, okay, with the right training system and all that. So just stay committed to the process and don't be program hopping either, because that's also a big mistake that I see. You're excited about lifting, you're brand new to it, and you're ready to transform your body. Maybe you're really skinny and you want to get buff. I've been there, bro. I know exactly where you're coming from. So trust me, I understand your mentality, but it's not what you should be doing right now, okay? Find one good system and run that for as long as you possibly can. The worst thing you could do is every month, oh, I'm trying this program, that program, and especially if they're advanced, okay? Now, it would be more understandable if you're, say, alternating between certain novice routines, but usually what I see is a teenager that wants to run a crazy advanced program, okay? And they go from one to the next. And usually what happens is they tend to overreach quite quickly. They get injuries, or they simply don't make the best progress because those systems are not suitable for them. So again, I think if we go back to focusing on the essentials, using good form, and just running a basic full body 3 times a week system, linear progression, all these programs will be eradicated. So you do that for a long enough time period and you're going to be good. And depending on your age, genetics, and other factors like that, some of you will hit the intermediate stage faster than others. Maybe it'll take you a year, and maybe for the really young guys, it'll take about 2 years. I'm not entirely sure about that, but do understand that you will make a lot of gains, and it'll be the best gains if you keep it very simple right now, okay? So those are really all of my tips that I have for you. It's a very simple video, but that's really all you need. There's nothing complicated about lifting, especially when you're this age, man. Like, you got to be getting the habit down right and just focusing on the basics, focusing on the essentials, and just staying committed to the process. It's all you really need. And trust me, you will look better with time. So if you want other topics like this, and if you have questions about anything that I discussed in this segment, leave some comments down below, and I will see you next time.